So recently, a bunch of unaired pilots found their way online, dating back to the 90s. What I want to do is look at these pilots and determine two things. 1, did it have potential? And 2, how different would popular culture be if this pilot was picked up for series? Today we're opening up the pilot vault and looking at the pilots for a show called HUD, a comedy spy show starring Steve Carrell. He does secret undercover crime fighting work for the Department of Housing and Urban Development. I guess Michael was right. He was a secret agent in another lifetime. But this guy is no Michael Scarn. Well, he kind of is. We'll get into it in a moment. Carrell would revisit this theme a few years later in the reboot movie of Get Smart, taking over the role that Don Adams established. It always makes me wonder why actors take on roles that have already been nailed by other actors. Like when Steve Martin played Inspector Jacques Clouseau in the Pink Panther movies. Peter Sellers already nailed it. Why revisit it? You're just setting yourself up for failure. Now what's interesting about this pilot is that it was directed by David Zucker, a third of Zaz, a directing team called Zucker, Abrahams and Zucker. Together they directed all the great comedy spoof movies, the Kentucky Fried Movie, Airplane, the Naked Gun trilogy. They have a very noticeable style. A few years back, Carrell directed that comedy series with Rashida Jones, Angie Tribeca, and the style of that was very Zaz. So it seems like he took what he learned from this pilot and used it later on. It's nice that we're able to understand history a little more by viewing these pilots. That's what I love about them. Every pilot has a small effect on things that happen later on. Right, let's crack on and watch it, shall we? We start with Steve Carrell washing ashore in scuba gear somewhere in South America. There's some typical like James Bond spy music playing as he sneaks up to some sort of compound where there's a party going on. He takes off his scuba gear and reveals a tuxedo, very much making a callback to the white jacket that Sean Connery wore in Goldfinger, which was later worn by Harrison Ford in Temple of Doom. He arrives at the party, and it's a scuba outfit wearing party, so he stands out like a sore thumb. We then get an introduction to the concept of the show. Basically, the narrator explains that the FBI and CIA got too much media attention when they were formed. So instead of making a third secret agency, they converted an existing useless one. So they turned the people at the Department of Housing and Urban Development into secret super spies. Right, in this scene where one of the agents is talking to the boss, they play generic office noise number 4, and for some reason they play it so loud that I can barely hear the actors speak.
You receive my memo? Yes, Agent Steele, but the answer is still...
Who did the sound mixing in this? It's dreadful. I keep watching in the background for fun things to happen, but they never do. Remember in the Naked Gun movies where weird things would be happening every second? Like when he was in the station and there was a woman showering behind the glass of the door and they just never reference it. I figured this would be littered with this stuff, but no. Maybe it's because when they tried to make Police Squad, that was deemed too funny for TV because there were too many laughs per minute and they couldn't sell it to anyone. Maybe they learned a lesson, I don't know. But it's sad, I miss all that weird stuff. The big problem they have to deal with is stopping people from stealing Morpheus, a missile. Not to be confused with Morbius, which I imagine no one would ever steal. You know how in HMV, Blu-rays are often locked behind those anti-theft cases? I bet they don't even bother putting the Morbius Blu-rays in them. They're safe, no one's gonna take them, are they? Steve Carell delivers his lines really weird. He hasn't quite got it down yet, this comedy thing. He's still funny, but he's nowhere near as hilarious as he is in, say, The Office. Some guy comes to deliver a cake, so they go into security mode, and everything switches to make it look like they are just doing housing and development. One of these switches involves a family coming out from behind the wall, so I suppose that just means that they're always there waiting. Yeah, right. You've just got to throw logic aside when it comes to Zaz. It's then revealed that Steve is getting a new partner, Agent Noble, and we get a great delivery from Steve.
Oh, wow, good disguise, Chuck. I guess you're going to the Playboy Mansion as Miss January.
Havoc.
That is one amazing ass chuck, Silicon. Ah, go.
See, this guy he's playing, it's, how do you put this? He isn't exactly funny. He's more like what Michael Scott thinks is a charming super spy. So he kind of is Michael Scott. If he saw this pilot, he'd be watching going, my character is the coolest guy there. Part of me feels like this is Michael Scott playing this character, not Steve. That's how off it feels in comparison with his other work. Rather than listening to his boss, Steve goes to the Swiss embassy because he has a hunch that the Swiss are involved, because his watch has stopped working. I'm gonna call it now. I think he accidentally gets this right. That's always how these things go. It's like what happened in Luckwell, where Luckwell accidentally solved the case by just following his stupid hunches. We have what may be my favourite joke of the episode, when Steve accidentally flips the wrong dial.
I'm going to call security. Security?
Just turned off the light in the bathroom.
Of course I did. It's much too bright in there.
Agent Noble defends Steve's erratic behaviour for, well, no reason really, other than that the script told it to. It's not the best written character. We have a great scene where Steve bumps into a mysterious guy in an overcoat in a car park, very much in the same vein as Deep Throat from the X-Files. You know what, I think these guys did a better job at spoofing it than Jason Alexander did in the untitled Victoria Pyle project. In that pilot, the big joke was he was constantly getting interrupted from being mysterious. But here, the joke is that Deep Throat is being too vague and Steve is too dumb. It's mad how we've had 2 Deep Throat parodies in Pilot Vault. It's like that Doofenshmirtz meme. 2 times isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. Steve and Noble have a heart-to-heart. It's not really important. Then they return to the Swiss embassy. There's a quickly spoken joke that I really enjoyed. Steve is wearing this big medal around his neck to try and blend in, and he says that he has taken out the camera from his pen and put it inside the necklace. But he could have just as easily just put the pen in his jacket pocket, like this other agent has here. It's stupid, but I liked it. To be fair, that's just my review of this entire thing. You can publish that. It's stupid, but I liked it. 4 stars. Steve meets his old partner at the party and ruins the operation. I then really laughed. Like proper laughed, and I'm not someone who's easily amused. Steve gives his necklace secret camera thing to Agent Noble, and then suddenly people watching the footage across the street. They're all wondering why everyone is looking directly at the camera, and it's revealed that it's because they're all looking at her cleavage. Great classic joke. I loved it. Well done. Of course, Steve's hunch about the Swiss being involved almost comes to fruition, and Steve threatens to shoot the ambassadors with a pen. I imagine he borrowed this pen from Johnny English. Steve Carrell really hams it up in this pilot. It's really interesting how he plays it, because like I said earlier, it's basically how Michael Scott would portray him. He makes some really weird choices, but it works. And it's revealed that the Swiss ambassador was in fact involved all along, just like Luckwell. He accidentally cracked the case, simply by being an idiot. After saving the day, Steve mentions what was intended to be a future storyline for the show, him trying to find out what happened to his grandfather. But of course, we're never gonna see that future because this pilot was not picked up for a full series. It's interesting to get this little glimpse into a world where Steve Carell became famous for this role instead of The Office or The 40-Year-Old Virgin. He had so many chances to make it big before 2005. He was involved in the Dana Carvey show, but that was cancelled really quickly, mostly because of how it was marketed. There was a series Come to Papa, where he played the lead character's boss, but that didn't last long either. And there was also that Tim Curry show, Over the Top, which was also cancelled. I'm still gutted about that one. I love Tim Curry. Steve Carell was so close to making it big, so it's kinda mad that 2 projects that shot him to fame came in the same year. It's like, you wait your entire life for a bus and then 2 come along at once. So yeah, this pilot was pretty decent. I really enjoyed it and I got a few laughs out of it. The only reason why this wasn't picked up for series was because of a show similar to it. Dag was made around the same time, but but that only lasted one season. I feel like this show would have had more of a chance. So where do I rank this among the other unaired pilots that we've talked about? Well, once again, this is one of the best ones I've ever seen. It wasn't as good as Look Well or Nobody's Watching. It was definitely better than How I Met Your Dad. You know what, I'm gonna put this ahead of Elvira. I'm gonna put this in 3rd place. Because like I said, this was good enough to be picked up. It just wasn't because there was a similar show to it. That's the only reason. It had no major problems and I definitely recommend you checking it out. I'll include a link to it in the description if you want to go and watch the full thing. Now there's 2 more pilots starring Office stars. One from John Krasinski and one from Rainn Wilson. Do you want me to talk about them? If you do, then leave a comment below letting me know and I'll check them out. And subscribe, help us get to 4K. Right, I'll let you go. Bye.